Greetings, Alyssa. All right, so I did just a little bit of looking around, and I want to share some of that with you. As I explained on our call, these tend to be kind of iterative processes. So um, each time we look at it, new ideas come to light, new things. It's really the way websites kind of grow and work. But let's take a look at what we have so far. So I had mentioned on the call, I think that there's kind of a prerequisite. Google uses an acronym called EAT, and EAT stands for expertise. So that's all about, in your case, you're an online store. So that's really all about the quality of your online store. And there are some adjustments, small adjustments we need to make here. But overall, I think it's a good looking site from the conversion perspective. So you kind of have this thing here that goes on for, there's lots of different paths that generate traffic. Traffic can come from lots of areas, but one significant path, of course, is Google. And so Google is more about putting people into your sales funnel, getting them to your front door. The website, as you've worked on it, is more about conversion. You've tried to create a great looking website that functions smoothly and will convert. But the back end of the site, things that you can't see, are things that Google's trying to pick up on because they can't understand in their algorithm, at least yet, you know, how great this image is here. They really can only see the text and other information on the site. So I'm going to walk you through just a couple of these things that I look for. Nice pop-up. When I'm looking at things like this, and it's really about the back end. So let's start off with schema. Schema is information Google looks for. It's kind of it's code. It's like a machine language. It's called markup or schema, and it's a specific way of telling Google what a page is about. So one of the things I like to do is just run a website through. Google has a tool called Structured Data Testing Tool, and I like to just run the website through it. And so let's do a test here. I'll run a couple of different items through just to give you an idea. So the very first one's kind of the home page. What's it say about your product line, what you're selling, all of that type of thing. And it takes a moment for it to crunch this and go through it. The next thing I want to look at is a category page. What's the category? How is it defined? And then last, I want to look at an actual item. And so we'll look at a couple of other things while that's loading because sometimes, here it is. So what I see here is extremely basic schema. So this is a type of out-of-the-box schema that kind of comes with websites and templates. It's very simplistic. This is probably just your Shopify template creating this. There's a lot more information that really needs to go in here under your schema. And I think you should probably look at this also. Are you really an organization or are you a store? And so these are a couple of things we'll dig into on that one. Now, let's go back. Let's run a new test. And let me get the URL here. Let's dig into one of your category pages. So here we're on a category page for t-shirts. Let's grab that URL. Go back to the structured data testing tool and let's see what that tells us. Does it really tell us that what you sell in that category? Would Google clearly identify that? And so while that's loading, I'm going to go a little bit farther. Images and videos are two, beyond schema, are two of the other areas that you can optimize, I think, and get a lot more out of it. So with the t-shirt page, what I'm seeing is the basic organization schema here. It's not really telling me that you have this category of products all underneath t-shirts, and what that, that you sell this apparel, and you've got this subcategory for tees. Now let's go just a level deeper, and this time I'm going to grab an actual item here, and let's take a look at what this information says when we look at the structured data. While that's running, I want to look at photographs next. So let's take a look at this photo I pulled off of your site. I downloaded it. There's something called EXIF information that lives within the photo itself. It's invisible, but it has a lot of information, all the way from like camera type used, lens type, camera settings, all of that type of thing. That's all part of a photograph. There's a lot of area here that we can optimize. And what I'm seeing is really your photos are not optimized. They're okay, but they tend to have titles like image underscore 8073 underscore 600x JPEG. That really doesn't tell Google what this photograph's about. So we need better naming of the photos that's more representative of the actual keywords and search terms that you want. With photos on the website itself, on the Shopify site, you'll notice that there's an alt tag and a description that can be used. Those should be used and filled with the product description. And the alt tag should probably also be reflective of a better name. But this is different. This is inside the photograph itself, and this is an area that a lot of information can be brought to. First of all, we can set some copyright information. We can set your brand name in here. We can set an image description. We have this very large space here called user comment, and it could be giant, whatever you want to put in there. And there's specific things I always look to get into this section in here. It goes on down. There's, of course, some date areas, camera settings I don't pay too much attention to, but I do pay attention to coordinates, GPS coordinates. So this is where we'd work your address in. I know it's just a mailing address essentially, but that really doesn't matter that it's just a mailing address. It still ties this photograph back to your business entity. Your business entity is up here. It ties the photograph even further to your business entity. Then we have more information on the photograph itself. So here's a whole area of information that we can put in here. Then we have sublocation city. Once again, this is kind of like the geo section a little bit above for the GPS, but it's more straightforward, and so we want to use that. And those are really the fields that I think should be doctored on all of your photographs. So the process for this would be pretty much to log into your site, download a photograph, optimize it, upload it back over, and reconnect it to the page. A little bit of work, but you'll get a very large, you'll get a lot out of it for doing that. So we'll get deeper into this. Another area that is very similar is the optimization of video. And YouTube and photographs provide really an abundance of optimization possibilities. All websites should have a little bit of video on it, and then that YouTube channel should be grown out. And YouTube is one of the easiest to manipulate Google properties. If you will, the credibility flows back from YouTube into your site. So it's another way we can kind of work on this. So back to schema. Here we have organization again, and whoops. There we go. We have organization again. There's two items it's telling us. If I go into it, I see really the same thing. If I get back out of it here, we have product. There's two items, 8 warnings and 15 warnings. Let's take a look at what it's missing. It's missing a lot of very valuable information. Brand, description, image, offers, reviews, etc. Now up above, This one here has some of that information filled in, but really it needs to be done in just a little bit more thorough manner here. So I think that's a large opportunity all the way around, is getting the schema in order for Google and other search engines to be able to digest. We spoke a little bit about the photographs. We want to get those lined up, and then we want to introduce some video into the site, and we want to optimize the YouTube channels to get a little bit out of that. So those are all, fundamental optimization things that goes into a site. It's part of the E of the EAT. The A stands for authority, essentially, and authority is more about who's linking to you. And so Google spies on everybody through the Chrome browser. They spy using your Google Analytics. All of this information goes into their computerized systems. Their artificial intelligence crunches it all through. And so what they're looking for is they're looking to see like how much authority you have, but authority comes from the outside in. And so they're looking for who's linking to you and are those authority sources. One great way to manipulate authority is using press releases. A press release allows us to get backlinks from very high authority sites because they're being picked up by radio and television sites. And so that's a tactic to deal with the A of the EAT. And then the T, they call it trustworthiness. It's really about them spying on people that are looking at your site. And so it's really more about traffic and how that traffic reacts on the site. And that I'll know a lot more about after we look at analytics and see where your traffic's coming from and what they're doing on the site. But we want to create the proper image of traffic being fed back to Google. Sometimes we have to augment that traffic a little bit with our own traffic to correct those signals. So this is where the analytics will come into play and where it gets more important to see what's really happening there. So let's zoom back out here. I just want to show you then one more area that I think is one of the first things we want to do for you is we want to get your Google My Business in order. And this is a company that I think is a little bit like yours. They're not an e-store, they're a manufacturer, but this type of information is brought into the Google My Business listing and optimized. And then in the background, there's some tricks here, of course, with all of this, but there's something called products. And this is where I think we can do something for your business and do it really well. We can basically bring in the product categories, and then we can bring in products underneath of it. And those products here, each one of these has optimization associated with it, and we'll get deeper into this. But I think this is just one of the fundamental things that you're missing that needs to be got in place here is your Google My Business listing. So there's good ways and bad ways to build these out. Google's extremely sensitive right now to these, so don't jump in and just build one because then when we make changes, Google's going to delete it. Let's first of all determine if you have, and I had that here in, I think, an email. I'm going to need access to the Google Analytics and Google Search Console. I'd also need access to Google Ads to see just an overview of what you've got going on there. I really won't need that very long, but it's part of the overall discussion, I think, here about where your traffic's coming from. So I want to take a glance at it. All of those should be granted to this address right here. But this, I'm asking here if you have a separate Gmail account which holds your Google Analytics other than your personal account. And the reason I ask that is I want to be able to look at that and I don't want to see personal information. So if that's true, then perhaps I can just get the credentials and log into it. It'll be faster for me to make the GMB listing, and I should probably make the GMB listing so that it'll stick and not get deleted. Like I say, Google's hypersensitive about GMBs right now. They're deleting them all over the place, so we don't want that to happen. through my agency, I've never done anything bad, so they like me. They trust me, and so I can build it, and I think we'll have a good success with it. And I want to build that in this Gmail account if you've already got one like that. If you don't, then I'll create a Gmail account, give you access to it. I'll give you the credentials, and we'll build the GMP listing. All right, so a couple of strategies. We're going to create the GMP listing. We're going to add the products. We're going to edit the EXIF data and photos. I'm going to show you how to do that. Edit the schema and map a little bit of a press release plan out there. Also, I'm going to teach you how to properly optimize your photos and videos and your schema that you're going to put on future products that you add to the website. So after all of that's done, we've got all of that set up. That's a good short-range goal over the next couple of months to get done. Then we're really into the secondary strategies, which is going deeper with ads and retargeting and some of those other ways of generating traffic. But this probably should be done first, is the way I see it right now, just looking at this. So I'll wrap this video up here. And there's one more thing I wanted to show you. I was showing you that Google listing for wood cubicles. And so really in a matter of just weeks, what happens now, I'm in incognito mode. Google's not theoretically spying on me, but they do know my location. But this is just a search in Chicago, basically. And I put in wood cubicles, and they went from complete zero visibility. They were unknown. They didn't even have a website. They were unknown. So we've gone from complete invisibility. Now I have 3 ads in here that are above them, but they're number 1 for that search term. And I won't say they're number 1 in every city in the country, but they are ranking highly from just a sampling across the country all over the place for the term wood cubicles. There's tight alignment, of course, with their name. That's the name of their business. And so those two things are working together. But what's happened is, because Google now knows with better schema and also with that product information, they now know enough about this actual product line to where they've given them, for the term wood cubicles, they've given them the knowledge panel over here. So, in a way, half this page is them right here. And so here's their product lines. All the different things that they sell are brought in here. And lovely stuff. But this is the result of doing these things that I've highlighted in this video, or can be the result. Rarely does Google display this for a company. But when these things are done really well, sometimes you'll start to get the knowledge panel. More likely in your space where you are a retailer of clothing and accessories in a niche, is probably not going to be handled in the same way. You probably won't get the knowledge panel unless somebody just types your company name deep in. Then I would expect that to happen. And I would expect you to dominate the page too. But, the goal will be, of course, is to get you showing up for some of the things you sell that are specific to your niche, search terms specific to your niche, that where, reasonable competition could come in there. And so, thought you might find some interest in that. Anyway, I'll sign off here. This is a good start. Next, work on getting me access to these things. Ask questions if you have any, and we will take the next steps together and try to get this firmed up a bit. Thanks.